All right, so today's topic is going to be about gossip. And I've got some questions. Did you know that Kate Middleton's senior staffers repeatedly have not seen or spoken to her since her mysterious surgery? Or that Cara Delevingne's $7 million LA home was destroyed by a massive fire, killing her cats? Or that Michael Jackson's son Blanket is 22 and looks all grown up during his rare outing in LA? Or that Princess William barely mentions Kate Middleton at an event as theories swirl about a rumored affair? Or that a slimmed down Oprah Winfrey has left Weight Watchers board after nearly 10 years? Or that Love is Blind star Sarah Ann felt iced out and bullied at the bombshell reunion? Don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about, but this is just 1 week in gossip in America. In America, gossip is a $3 billion business each year. We love gossips. In fact, 2/3 of us say that though we know gossip is bad, we're addicted to it. And over half of us report doing it regularly. People admit to spreading gossip, and 1 in 5 say they spread gossip that they know is false. 1 in 5 is spreading gossip that they know is false. And a large majority of us, 69% of Americans, say that we've heard gossip about ourselves that was not true. So it's really hard to understand the depths of our love of gossip. It's a real thing. But we aren't new with this. This is not something that just happened just this year, or just something new in the United States. We've been loving gossip for a long time. In fact, if we look at the scriptures this week, Proverbs condemns gossip. So that is the Old Testament talking about it, and where it says, whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads gossip is a fool. So it's been around for a while. And Socrates is supposed to have said, strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. And then for fun today, I wanted to show that 1960 theatrical play, Bye Bye Birdie, showing that the whole cell phone issue with kids that we think is just brand new, they were all using their phones in Bye Bye Birdie in that clip. We've been gossiping for a long time, and it's been a part of our culture. And we know that Jesus in the text is condemning the religious leaders because they're gossiping about him. In fact, there's some strange stories in the gospel where Jesus tells people, don't tell anybody what I just did for you, I just healed you. And it's called the Messianic secret. It's very odd. Why did he do it? Well, one reason is that we do find out later, as word spreads about him, it gets twisted. And he doesn't want it to be twisted, but unfortunately it did. And he faces that when he's on trial. A lot of the questions that he's being asked are questions that are not true, and he refuses to answer. But it's a product of gossip. So gossip's been around a long time. We seem to love it, and it seems to be dangerous, but what exactly is it? A lot of definitions, but the one I kind of like is that it's talking about people negatively behind their back and saying things that you wouldn't say if they were present. That's a good test. Would you say that to their face? And gossip, there is positive gossip where you actually say nice things about other people. That's awesome. But real gossip that we're talking about today, it's not motivated by what's best for the person you're talking about. Your motivations are different. And what are our motivations? If it's such a negative thing, then why do we love it? And it seems like we've all done it. So I'll just ask you to take a minute yourself, if you can think, are there any reasons that you've ever gossiped? I thought about it and thought about why I have gossiped. For one thing, I think gossip can be very entertaining. That's why it's so successful in those magazines. It's kind of fun at some level, just to read about other people's lives. And sometimes gossip has the ability, particularly in a workplace, to create alliances where two people can sort of be like, that jerk over there, he's just really awful. Don't you agree? I agree. So we get an alliance in talking about somebody else, and it feels really good. And it creates an us-them dynamic that can be very bonding. I also think of gossip, an image I have is like water polo. In water polo, you kind of push somebody down and then you score your shot. I think sometimes we feel like if we can push somebody else down, we're lifting ourselves up by doing it. And so there's an unspoken agreement when we're talking about somebody else that's not there, that somehow they deserve the scorn or the ridicule or whatever we're doing. But I find fundamentally it makes us feel that we're right, we're better than others. And I find that when I've done it, I'm usually contrasting myself with the person I'm talking about. I'm really good. This person, what a mess. And so if with celebrities, we often build them up in our culture, but we really love to tear them down. Just really joyful experience of like, yeah, oh, but look at her crash. Oh my gosh. So there's something about tearing others down that lifts us up that is connected to very bad energy. And it can also be strategic. If you're I've seen people in business gossiping with each other, and you're getting the scoop. You want to know, spill the tea. What's the news? I'm going to get the insight here. What's going on at the company? And finally, I think gossip is a way of venting. Sometimes I'm really mad at you. I am not going to talk to you about it, but by talking to somebody else, I've let off the steam. So there's a lot of good reasons that we gossip, and it's understandable why it's so extremely popular. But is there a cost? Is there any penalty? And there is. That's why everybody has, throughout history that we read, has condemned it. All spiritual teachers have condemned it. Why? Well, fundamentally, gossip damages trust. And we all know this feeling that when we've been in a group that's gossiping about somebody else, we just say to ourselves, what happens when I leave? And you don't want to leave the room because it's like, oh my gosh, I'll be next on the barbecue, could I be next? So we know that it's very damaging of trust. And also, if you are a gossip, or if you're with a gossip, if you're with someone who just constantly says things that they shouldn't be saying about other people, you're very careful what you say to them if you're smart. Because you know that whatever you share could be on the telephone. As we saw in Bye Bye Birdie, you could be what they're talking about. So frankly, it does damage trust. We don't share with people, and we aren't candid, we aren't very real. We're guarded because we know that whatever we say could be out there, and so we protect ourselves. That leads to not having really honest relationships. The downside of gossiping to vent is that we have an issue with somebody, and none of us, very few of us, I shouldn't say none of us, some of us are really good at confrontation and engagement, but most of us kind of want to avoid conflict at all cost, or as best we can. And so rather than engage the person we're having a problem with, it's better to talk to somebody else about it, and we get it off of our chest. The problem is whatever issue we're having with that person, it's just recycled and it's perpetuated, and it's never dealt with. So it really is an honor. I did a sermon on being candid. It's a gift to people if you can be candid with them and tell them how you feel. It's a real gift to people. And then also gossip tends to create a whisper down the lane. Untruths get told. And we saw in the beginning when I was talking about the sermon, the number of people who say they tell false things about other people. So we're also in an environment where things aren't checked and we're sharing mistruths. I will say in my own life, I think it's also, when I've done it, I think it's a sign of insecurity. I think ministers and therapists and people who hear private things, first of all, should never really be gossiping, because no one's going to go and talk about private things with them. But I think when you gossip about someone, it's not even to be malicious. It's like, look at their messed up life. And by looking at that messed up life, it's like, I've got my act together. Again, denigrating to build up. But gossip can be very dangerous. We've seen it around the world where it's led to dehumanizing people and even violence. So from a spiritual perspective, when we engage in gossip, we're actually bringing in hellish energy. We're inviting in the wrong spiritual energy in our life. This is really dangerous. So I've been doing this series on conscious leadership and going through the various commitments that this book is suggesting, which I think is really good. And number 5 is, I'll read it. I commit to ending gossip. talking directly to people with whom I have an issue or concern, and encouraging others to talk directly to people with whom they have an issue or concern. So in other words, twofold. I'm not going to gossip, but I'm not going to be a receptor either. I'm not, when someone starts gossiping. This is very brave work. It means first of all, when we have something with somebody we disagree with, we have a beef with, we're committing to engaging them and not through other people. You've got an issue with that person, talk to them directly. So we're committing to owning that. But it also means that when we are at that moment when people are gossiping and it's kind of entertaining and it's, we do our part to shut it down. And gossip is a little bit like a fire. It needs oxygen. It needs someone to kind of, oh yeah, tell me more. Oh my God. If you don't do that, very often you can shut it down. You don't have to be self-righteous about it and lecture the person, but you can kind of just let it go. Not too long ago, I vented to a colleague of mine my frustration with another colleague. And what I said was not nuanced and it wasn't polished. I was frustrated and it was thoughtless. And the person I was talking to just said, well, I don't know what to say about that. And I was stunned because I really wasn't even aware I was gossiping, but I was gossiping. And I was saying something negative about someone, and it's something I really wouldn't probably have said to her face. And I've been very grateful for that friend who stopped it, just was like, we're not going to go there, and didn't embarrass me or condemn me or, didn't chasten me. But it did chasten me. I mean, I was embarrassed, and it caught me in a good way. And I think that was a really great way. And so it has impacted me to stop and be more aware when I'm engaging in that. So this season we're in right now on the church calendar is Lent. It's also in the Muslim calendar, it's Ramadan. If you know, there's fasting during the day. And I'm wondering if we can, in this season of giving things up and fasting, if we could not try to engage in a fast toward gossip and give that a try. Before we start talking about somebody else negatively to another, we can just ask ourselves this question: would I be willing to say that to their face? Or am I sharing this information out of any malice or envy? With all spiritual growth, you want to ask, what's motivating me to discuss other people? Is there some sort of benefit? So I'm suggesting a gossip diet fast. That means that when someone starts gossiping with us, we don't feel a need to feed it. We steer the conversation to a different topic. So as you attempt this gossip fast, you'll realize just how common gossip is. Once you become aware of it, we realize that we're part of that 2/3 of Americans who are constantly gossiping. And as we give up our desire for gossip, we are actually spiritually pushing away hellish energy, and we're actually inviting in angelic energy. And if you've done it, you can feel it. There's a quote from Swedenborg that talks about the power of rejecting negative energy, negative thoughts, and being cruel to others. And it's talking about how demons react. And it says that when we do it, victory carries with it the consequence that malicious demons and spirits no longer dare to do anything. Their whole life depends on their ability to destroy things. But when they sense that their victim has what it takes to stand up to them, they retreat as soon as they attack. So when we end gossip, when we don't bring in that energy, it's negative, malicious about other people, we're actually bringing less temptation into our life and less suffering into our life. The dark forces that are around us, they have to go elsewhere. So this Lent, I'm recommending we look to do a gossip fast. Refuse to say anything negative about someone that you wouldn't directly say to their face. And if you've got a beef with someone, find a loving way to engage them. And when someone begins bad-mouthing others in a conversation with you, you can either let it die out or shift the conversation. Amen.